In the heavenly realms, a being named Lucifer held a unique role, radiating light, beauty, and wisdom as he led worship in the presence of God. Yet, what caused such a high and glorious figure to turn away from his creator? In this video, we'll explore Lucifer's origin, his rebellion, and his transformation into Satan. But more than just recounting events, we'll delve into how this story can resonate with our lives and the choices we face each day. This journey unveils a lesson on pride, humility, and the consequences of straying from purpose, and it's something that can deeply inspire our daily lives. Part 1: Lucifer's origin, the light-bearer. In the heavenly realms, few beings were as magnificent as Lucifer. His very name, which means light-bearer, reveals something essential about his original role and identity. Lucifer wasn't just any angel, he was created with extraordinary beauty, wisdom, and purpose. In the book of Isaiah, we see Lucifer described as the morning star, a symbol of brightness and radiance, someone who was created to shine with the glory of God. Ezekiel offers us an even deeper look, portraying Lucifer as covered in every precious gemstone, sardius, topaz, diamond, jasper, and more, making him truly radiant. He was said to be perfect in beauty and wisdom, with a presence that likely dazzled anyone who beheld him. But Lucifer's beauty went beyond his appearance. According to many interpretations, he wasn't just adorned with gems, he also possessed musical instruments within his very being, almost as if he himself were a living instrument of praise. Some theologians believe that as he moved, these instruments would play, filling heaven with glorious sounds of worship that exalted God. He wasn't just any angel, he was one of the archangels, holding a position of significant authority. His role was to lead worship and inspire others in their adoration of God. In fact, as an archangel, he had his own ranks of angels under him, mirroring the structure seen with other archangels like Michael, the warrior leader, and Gabriel, the messenger. Lucifer's rank was that of the worship leader, entrusted with guiding the heavenly choir and honoring their creator. Imagine the splendor of being so filled with light that he himself reflected God's glory. When Lucifer entered the presence of God, the light that shone from the throne of the Almighty would reflect off his gemstone-covered form, casting an array of radiant colors across the heavenly realm. It's likely that this scene was breathtaking to witness, an awe-inspiring display that served as a testament to God's magnificence. Lucifer's purpose was not only to worship, but to magnify God's glory in a way that captivated all of heaven. His every move, every sound, every reflection of light was meant to honor the Creator. However, with such a grand design and purpose, how could Lucifer, who was once so close to God, have turned away and rebelled? Reflection: learning from Lucifer's story. Reflecting on Lucifer's story reminds me of a personal lesson about ambition and self-confidence. There was a period in my life when I was deeply focused on achieving my goals. I'd pour all my time and energy into pursuing what I thought was a worthy path, and gradually, I became convinced that I was on a higher level of understanding than those around me. My intentions were good, or at least they seemed so. I thought that my hard work was justified, that the sacrifices I was making were part of a noble pursuit. But in my drive for excellence, I began to overlook the people around me. The more I accomplished, the more I felt that I alone was responsible for my successes. I forgot about the friends, family, and mentors who had supported me. At times, I even felt annoyed if someone questioned my decisions, as if they couldn't understand the big picture like I could. It wasn't until I had a humbling moment, when I made a mistake I couldn't ignore, that I realized how I had been isolating myself. Much like Lucifer, who was originally created to reflect God's glory, I had lost sight of my true purpose. Lucifer's story reminds us of how pride and ambition, even when seemingly rooted in good intentions, can lead us astray if we forget the original purpose we are meant to serve. Lucifer's purpose was to reflect God's glory, not his own. And in my case, I had to learn to value the people and principles that supported me rather than assuming I was self-sufficient. Part 2, Lucifer's Rebellion, a Prideful Heart. In the heavens, Lucifer's downfall started from within, a hidden pride that would eventually shake the foundations of the heavenly order. Isaiah 14 verses 12 to 15 reveals the audacious thoughts that stirred within Lucifer. He whispered to himself, "I will ascend to heaven. I will raise my throne above the stars of God. I will make myself like the Most High." These weren't just words or fleeting thoughts, they were declarations of rebellion. Lucifer's pride had crept in subtly, taking root as he marveled at his own beauty and the splendor of the light that reflected through him. The irony is profound. Lucifer was made to reflect God's glory, but he became captivated by his reflection instead. His pride twisted this purpose, leading him to desire worship for himself rather than giving it to the one who had created him. Lucifer's ambition didn't stop at self-admiration, it turned into a consuming hunger to control and rule. He wasn't content with his position as a worship leader in heaven, he wanted to sit on the throne, to be the one others worshipped. Instead of aspiring to be like God in character, just, merciful, and loving, Lucifer wanted to seize God's authority. This shift from worshiper to would-be ruler was not only a betrayal of his purpose, but a complete perversion of his identity. Lucifer's rebellion went deeper as he began to convince the angels under his command to join him. Scripture suggests that he managed to deceive a third of the heavenly hosts, leading them astray with promises and perhaps even illusions of power. How could these angels, beings of light themselves, be so deceived? Some theologians suggest that Lucifer's light, the very glory he reflected from God, was mistaken by these angels as a sign of divinity. They may have been captivated by his glow, seeing in him what they thought was God's own light. Perhaps Lucifer even convinced them that he was offering them a chance to rise above their own stations, just as he sought to rise above his. The rebellion culminated in a war in heaven. The once glorious leader of worship had become the adversary of God, waging a battle against the loyal angels led by the archangel Michael. The heavenly conflict was fierce, with the angels clashing in a battle of loyalty versus pride. Ultimately, Lucifer's rebellion failed, and he was cast out of heaven, stripped of his former glory and role. He became known as Satan, the adversary, no longer a bearer of light, but a creature of darkness and destruction. Personal insight, the humbling lesson of pride. Reflecting on Lucifer's story brings me back to a time when I was leading a team on a high-stakes project. The role came with significant responsibility, and at first, I was honored to guide the team and work collaboratively toward our shared goals. But as time went on and successes started to build, I began to let the role go to my head. I became increasingly controlling, believing that my perspective was always the best one. I stopped listening as carefully to my teammates, who were, in fact, just as talented and insightful as I was. Without realizing it, I had started to see myself as above the others, more of a ruler than a collaborator. One day, my pride led to a critical mistake. I had dismissed feedback from a team member about a potential flaw in our approach, brushing it off as unnecessary caution. But that caution turned out to be exactly what we needed. My error led to setbacks that affected everyone on the team. The frustration and disappointment in their faces was humbling, and I realized that my leadership was failing not because I lacked skill, but because I was failing to see my team as equals. My role wasn't to dominate, but to guide, to inspire, and to collaborate. This experience echoes the lesson in Lucifer's fall. Pride can distort even our best intentions, making us believe that our vision alone is the right path. Lucifer's rebellion is a cautionary tale for anyone in a leadership role. When pride becomes the motivator, we lose sight of the responsibility we have to those we lead and, ultimately, to the purpose we were meant to serve. Lucifer's pride turned him from a worshiper into a tyrant. In a much smaller way, my pride shifted my role from a supportive leader to an unapproachable authority. In the end, humility became my most valuable asset. True leadership, as I learned, is not about elevating oneself but lifting others up. Part 3: The Battle in Heaven and Lucifer's Banishment. The story of Lucifer's rebellion reaches its climax in the book of Revelation, which describes an epic battle in heaven. This conflict wasn't a minor dispute, it was a full-scale war between the forces of light and darkness. Michael, the archangel, led the loyal angels against Lucifer, now known as Satan, and his followers. The rebellion that had started as a whisper in Lucifer's heart had spread, turning into a cosmic battle that shook the heavenly realms. The intensity of this war is beyond human comprehension, a clash where loyalty to God met the seductive allure of pride and power. Despite his defiance, Lucifer's rebellion was doomed from the start. Michael and his angels, standing firm in their allegiance to God, ultimately overpowered Lucifer and his followers. The victorious angels cast Lucifer down from heaven, banishing him from the presence of God. In a dramatic statement in the New Testament, Jesus himself references this fall, saying, "I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven," Luke 10 verse 18. With those words, Jesus underscores the power and finality of Lucifer's defeat. Lucifer's descent was more than a fall from physical height, it was a fall from grace and purpose. He had once been the light-bearer, the one who reflected God's glory, but now he had become Satan, the adversary, a stark reversal of identity and purpose. No longer a figure of beauty, wisdom, and light, he became a being of darkness, deceit, and destruction. His name itself changed to reflect his new nature, marking the complete transformation brought about by pride and rebellion. This fall of Lucifer is a powerful reminder of the consequences of unchecked pride and the danger of turning away from one's true purpose. Lucifer's story stands as a warning. Those who allow their ambitions to blind them to humility and loyalty risk losing everything they were meant to be. The light-bearer, who once brought beauty and worship to the heavens, was now a bringer of darkness and strife. A personal story of redemption, choosing humility over self-glorification. Reflecting on Lucifer's story of pride and rebellion, I'm reminded of a time when I, too, faced the temptation to let pride cloud my perspective. I was part of a team working on a project that we had poured countless hours and effort into. The outcome was successful, and we received a lot of praise and recognition. As someone who had put so much energy into the project, I felt an immediate temptation to accept the spotlight and take credit. It would have been easy to let the praise and acknowledgement fill me with pride. But at that moment, I remembered the role that each of my teammates had played. This success wasn't mine alone, but a shared victory that was only possible because each person brought their skills and dedication. Catching myself, I realized that the temptation to take sole credit would only diminish the accomplishment. Instead, I focused on acknowledging my teammates' contributions and sharing the credit. This decision, though small, felt pivotal. It was a reminder that humility and respect for others not only preserve our integrity but also create a sense of unity and fulfillment. In that moment, I was reminded of how easy it can be to let ambition and pride draw us away from gratitude and humility. The choice to celebrate others and recognize the collective effort felt like a return to my true purpose. Instead of darkness, I felt an inner light that came from honoring the team, and it taught me a lesson that has stayed with me ever since. Lucifer's story warns us of the dangers of pride, but it also encourages us to seek humility actively. In every success, we face a choice: to bring light by sharing and honoring others, or to bring darkness by allowing pride to take over. The light-bearer's tragic fall doesn't have to be our story. By choosing humility, we can continue to reflect God's light and purpose in our lives, honoring the gifts and contributions of those around us. Part 4. Satan's role on earth, the adversary's mission to deceive. After his dramatic fall from heaven, Satan's story takes a new path as he turns his focus on earth. No longer the light-bearer, he now acts as the adversary, a relentless force opposing God's will and seeking to corrupt humanity. His first recorded interaction with humans occurs in the Garden of Eden, where he appears as a serpent to tempt Eve. Through subtle manipulation, he sows seeds of doubt in her mind, leading her to question God's command. Satan tells her, "You will not certainly die, for God knows that when you eat from it your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." Genesis 3 verses 4 to 5. His words twisted the truth, playing on Eve's desire for wisdom and knowledge, ultimately leading her and Adam into disobedience. This act not only introduced sin into the world, but also separated humanity from the pure communion with God that they once enjoyed. Satan's influence didn't stop in Eden. His next notable appearance is in the story of Job. Satan approaches God and challenges Job's faith, suggesting that Job's devotion to God is rooted only in his blessings. Satan says, "Stretch out your hand and strike everything he has, and he will surely curse you to your face." Job 1 verse 11. He tests Job's faith through loss and suffering, stripping away everything Job holds dear. Although Satan's intention was to break Job's spirit, Job remained steadfast in his faith. This story highlights Satan's role as an accuser and tempter, testing the resolve of those who serve God. Perhaps one of the most striking confrontations between Satan and humanity occurs when he attempts to tempt Jesus himself. After a 40-day fast in the wilderness, Jesus faces 3 temptations from Satan. Each test is carefully crafted to appeal to human desires. First, Satan tempts Jesus to turn stones into bread, appealing to his physical hunger. Then, he takes Jesus to the pinnacle of the temple, challenging him to prove his divinity by throwing himself down, only to be saved by angels. Finally, Satan offers Jesus all the kingdoms of the world if he would bow down and worship him, tempting him with power and authority. Each time, Jesus counters Satan's deceit with Scripture, standing firm in his identity and mission. In each of these instances, Satan employs a similar strategy. He distorts the truth, appeals to pride, and offers shortcuts to power and satisfaction. By questioning God's word and authority, Satan tempts humans to seek their desires outside of God's guidance. His tactics are insidious, often blending truth with lies to make his temptations more appealing. Lessons we can draw today, recognizing and resisting everyday temptations. The story of Satan's interactions with Eve, Job, and Jesus offers valuable lessons for us today. Though we may not encounter a physical tempter, we face challenges that echo his tactics in our daily lives. In today's world, temptations for power, recognition, and shortcuts to success are abundant. Each of these desires can be good in themselves. Hunger, ambition, and self-worth are natural aspects of our humanity. But when we seek to fulfill them in ways that disregard our values or harm others, they become harmful. For instance, many of us face moments where we're tempted to take shortcuts, whether it's at work, in relationships, or in personal growth. The allure of quick success or recognition can cloud our judgment, pushing us to make choices that may compromise our integrity. Social media, for example, can sometimes encourage a desire for validation and self-promotion, drawing us into a mindset of comparison and envy. Recognizing these moments and staying rooted in humility can help us resist the impulse to compromise our values for fleeting satisfaction. A personal example of facing temptation. Reflecting on Satan's tactics in these stories, I'm reminded of a time when I faced a situation that tested my values. I was offered an opportunity that seemed like a shortcut to a big career step. It was tempting, it offered immediate recognition and the potential for quick advancement. However, taking that path would have involved compromising on some core principles I hold dear. The opportunity was designed to appeal to my ambition, much like Satan's appeal to Jesus with the offer of power over the kingdoms of the world. I struggled with the decision for a while, thinking of the benefits it would bring. But deep down, I knew that pursuing it would lead me away from the values and goals that truly mattered. I ultimately decided to decline the offer, and while it wasn't easy, it turned out to be one of the most important choices I made. This experience reinforced my understanding that true success comes from integrity and patience, rather than shortcuts and compromises. Drawing strength from stories of resistance. Just as Jesus withstood Satan's temptations with scripture and a clear sense of his mission, we, too, can find strength in grounding ourselves in our values and purpose. Recognizing when we're being tempted and reflecting on the lessons from these biblical stories can provide clarity in moments of uncertainty. Like Job, we can hold on to our faith even in times of hardship, knowing that our trials don't define us, they refine us. The story of Satan's influence on earth is a powerful reminder of the importance of discernment and resilience. By staying true to our values and resisting the allure of easy gains, we can protect our character and live in alignment with a higher purpose. Lucifer's tragic fall and his subsequent actions on earth serve as both a warning and a guide, encouraging us to be vigilant, humble, and steadfast in the face of life's challenges. Part 5. The final defeat of Satan, justice and the triumph of good. The story of Satan, from his fall to his role as the adversary, ultimately points toward an inevitable conclusion, his final defeat and the triumph of good over evil. In the book of Revelation, we are given a glimpse of the end of days, a time when Satan's influence will be permanently removed and the justice of God will prevail. This prophecy brings hope and assurance to believers, revealing that while Satan may wreak havoc on earth, his power is limited and his ultimate fate is sealed. According to Revelation 20 verses 1-3, an angel will descend from heaven, carrying the key to the abyss and a heavy chain. This angel will capture Satan and bind him for 1,000 years, during which time he will be unable to deceive the nations. This period, often referred to as the millennium, represents a time of peace and divine order where humanity can experience life without Satan's destructive influence. However, after these 1,000 years, Satan will be briefly released. This short release serves as a final test of humanity's faith and loyalty, but it also sets the stage for Satan's ultimate defeat. After his brief resurgence, Satan gathers forces for one last assault against God's people. But this time, his rebellion is swiftly crushed by the power of God. Fire from heaven consumes his followers, and Satan is thrown into the lake of fire, a place of eternal punishment where you will join the beast and the false prophet. Revelation 20 verse 10 states, "The devil, who deceived them, was thrown into the lake of burning sulfur, where the beast and the false prophet had been thrown. They will be tormented day and night forever and ever." This marks the end of Satan's influence, as he faces the consequences of his pride, rebellion, and relentless pursuit of power. This final judgment demonstrates the unshakable nature of God's justice. It reminds believers that while evil may seem overwhelming, God's plan ultimately prevails. The book of Revelation's depiction of Satan's fate underscores a foundational truth: good will ultimately triumph over evil. And God's justice will bring everything into balance. Reflecting on justice and the hope of victory over evil. Satan's final defeat is more than just the end of his story, it's a profound message of hope for all who struggle with the presence of evil in the world. We live in a time where suffering, injustice, and temptation are often painfully present, and it's easy to feel discouraged by these challenges. However, the promise of Satan's defeat reminds us that these trials are temporary. There will come a time when justice prevails, and those who have endured with faith will see their perseverance rewarded. personal reflection on the hope of justice. Thinking about Satan's ultimate fate reminds me of my own experiences with difficult times and unjust situations. I recall a period when I felt disheartened by unfair treatment, feeling that I was wrong despite my efforts to do the right thing. The anger and frustration I felt was intense, and for a while, it seemed like the situation would never improve. But over time, I found comfort in the hope that, in the end, justice would prevail. This hope didn't necessarily mean that the wrongs I experienced would be corrected right away, but it strengthened my resolve to stay true to my values, believing that ultimately, good would come out of it. This belief in ultimate justice is powerful. It teaches us that while we may not always see justice in this life, we can trust that God's plan is bigger than any single event. Just as Satan's story will come to an end, so too will the trials and injustices we face. This perspective helps us endure, knowing that staying faithful, even in challenging times, is worthwhile. The lesson of the final defeat, trusting in the bigger picture. Satan's defeat shows us that justice might not come on our schedule, but it will come. In the grand design, every wrong will be addressed, and every act of faith will be rewarded. This promise frees us from the burden of vengeance or despair, encouraging us to focus on living with integrity, hope, and resilience. As we reflect on Satan's journey, from a glorious light-bearer to an adversary, and finally, to a defeated enemy, we can find inspiration to keep our faith strong. Satan's story is a cautionary tale against pride, deceit, and rebellion, but it's also a story of hope, a reminder that no matter how dark things may seem, God's light will ultimately shine through. By keeping our focus on the greater good, remaining humble, and trusting in God's justice, we can navigate our own challenges with peace and assurance. The end of Satan's story isn't just about punishment, it's about restoration. It's about the return of peace, goodness, and divine order. And as believers, it encourages us to live each day with confidence that, in the end, good will triumph over evil, and God's love and justice will have the final word. A lesson in humility and purpose. The story of Lucifer's rise and fall isn't just a tale of heavenly beings. It's a message about the dangers of pride, the importance of humility, and the need to remain true to our purpose. Like Lucifer, we are created with beauty, potential, and the capacity to reflect God's light. But the choices we make, how we see ourselves, and how we relate to others, can lead us down vastly different paths. In reflecting on Lucifer's story, consider your own path and remember, true greatness lies in humility. Seek to serve, reflect light, and keep pride in check, as it's not in exalting ourselves, but in lifting others and walking humbly that we fulfill our highest calling. If you found this story compelling, give it a thumbs up and consider checking out our next video to explore more powerful lessons from the Bible. Thank you for watching.
If this message resonates with you, hit that like button and let the universe know you're ready for your breakthrough. Subscribe to our channel for more transformative insights and guidance on your journey to abundance. Share this video with friends and family who need to hear this today. Let's amplify our positive energy together. Your engagement not only helps us grow but also strengthens the cosmic energy we are building as a community. Together, we can uplift each other and manifest our dreams into reality, one positive action at a time.